At my brother's engagement lunch, he opened the ring box and proposed with the one piece of my dead sister I had kept hidden in my bedroom for 7 years. My mother smiled like she hadn't been the one who took it. I was 6 years old when my sister died. Her name was Emily, and she was 17. People always expect grief to work like a movie. They expect me to remember every detail about her, as if losing her carved her into my memory in perfect shape. But I was little, too little. My memories of Emily are scattered, like pieces of a photograph torn up and left in a drawer. I remember her laugh, though not exactly the sound of it. More the feeling, like somebody had opened a window and let sunlight into the room. I remember the smell of her strawberry shampoo when she bent down to tie my shoes, because I could never get the loops right. I remember her bedroom door cracked open, music playing too loud, posters on the walls of bands I didn't know, and actors I thought looked like grown-ups pretending to be cool. I remember Sunday nights at the kitchen table, when she painted her nails on a paper towel and yelled at our brother, Ryan, not to bump her elbow. Ryan, I swear, if you mess this up, I'm painting your whole hand blue. He would grin and lean closer just to annoy her. I remember that. And I remember the day the house changed. Not the hospital, not the phone call, not even the funeral. Not really. Just the quiet after. That terrible, heavy quiet that settled into every room like another person. My mother never recovered from losing Emily. She kept living, of course. She packed lunches. She went to work. She made casseroles for church potlucks and signed permission slips and showed up to school plays. But something in her never fully came back. After Emily died, she became perfect. Not in real life. In memory. The dead have a way of becoming safer when we sand down their edges. Emily was suddenly an angel, a saint, the best daughter, the brightest girl, the one who would have gone to college, changed the world, married someone wonderful, and called every Sunday. No one mentioned that Emily slammed doors when she was mad, or that she once got grounded for sneaking out to a bonfire, or that she hated doing dishes and used to trade chores with me for candy, even though I was too young to understand I was being scammed. To Mom, Emily became a shrine. To Dad, she became a subject he avoided unless he'd had 2 beers and a long day. To Ryan, she became a shadow he tried to outrun. And to me, she became a question. Who was she really? Who would she have become? Would she have liked me when I got older? Would she have taken me shopping for my first homecoming dress? Would she have taught me how to drive? Would she have warned me when a boy was bad news? When you lose someone before you really get to know them, grief is strange. You don't only mourn who they were, you mourn every version of them you never got to meet. For years, I carried that grief quietly because I didn't know where to put it, until I found the ring. I was 12. It was summer in Ohio, one of those sticky July afternoons where the air feels wet and the cicadas scream from the trees like they're trying to warn you about something. Mom had finally decided to clean out part of the attic. Not Emily's bedroom. That stayed untouched for years, but some boxes that had been shoved upstairs after the funeral. Old notebooks, birthday cards, a denim jacket with patches on the sleeves, a shoebox full of cheap jewelry, hair clips, and movie ticket stubs. Mom got overwhelmed halfway through. I saw it happen. Her hands slowed, her face went pale, and suddenly she stood up and said she needed water. Then she went downstairs and didn't come back. I stayed. Maybe I was nosy. Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I was just old enough to understand those things had belonged to a girl who was supposed to be my sister but still felt like a myth. At the bottom of the shoebox, wrapped in a little square of tissue paper, I found a ring. It wasn't expensive, not a family heirloom with diamonds and stories attached, just a thin silver band with a tiny pale blue stone in the middle. Aquamarine, maybe. Or maybe just glass. I didn't know. I slipped it onto my finger, and it fit my 12-year-old hand perfectly. For a moment, I just stared at it. I remember thinking, she touched this. That was all. Not that it was valuable. Not that it was mine. Just that Emily had worn it. It had been part of her real life, not the sainted version my mother kept polished behind glass. I didn't ask if I could keep it. Maybe I should have. Maybe that would have changed everything. But at 12, all I knew was that everyone else had something that connected them to Emily. Mom had framed pictures and folded sweaters. Dad had silence and the softball glove he kept in the garage. Ryan had memories he refused to talk about. I had almost nothing. So I took the ring and tucked it into the little wooden music box on my dresser, the one with a ballerina inside that had stopped spinning years before. I didn't wear it to school. I didn't show it off. I didn't tell people some tragic story to get attention. Sometimes, when I missed a person I barely remembered, I opened the box and held that little ring in my palm. That was it. That tiny silver ring became my piece of Emily, my private piece. For 7 years, no one said anything about it. And then last spring, my family gave it away. It was supposed to be a happy Sunday. My parents were hosting lunch after church, which meant Mom had been cooking since 8 in the morning and acting like the governor might drop by. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans with bacon, dinner rolls warming in the oven. Sweet tea in a glass pitcher because Mom insisted it tasted better that way, even though everyone knew she just liked how it looked. Ryan was bringing his girlfriend, Lauren. Everybody knew what was coming. Ryan had been dating Lauren for 2 years. She was kind and practical, pretty in a soft, unshowy way, with curly brown hair and a laugh that always seemed to surprise her. She taught 2nd grade, remembered birthdays, and brought my mother flowers on Mother's Day even before she was officially family. My parents adored her. Honestly, I liked her too, and I was happy for Ryan. Or I wanted to be. Ryan was 27, 5 years older than me, and for most of our lives, our relationship had been built less on closeness and more on shared history. We knew each other's patterns. We could irritate each other in under 10 seconds. We could sit in the same room for an hour without speaking and not feel uncomfortable. After Emily died, Ryan got hard around the edges. He was 11, old enough to remember everything and young enough to be swallowed by it. He stopped crying long before I did, but he got mean in little ways, sarcastic, dismissive. If I talked about Emily, he rolled his eyes. If Mom cried, he left the room. I think grief embarrassed him. I think love did too. But that Sunday, Ryan looked nervous in a way I'd never seen before. He kept touching his pocket. He barely ate. When Dad asked about work, Ryan answered like a man being questioned by airport security. I should have noticed. Maybe some part of me did. After lunch, while Mom was clearing plates and refusing help she clearly wanted, Ryan stood up and tapped his fork against his glass. "Oh my gosh," Lauren whispered, her hands flying to her mouth. Mom froze by the sink, already smiling. Dad leaned back in his chair. My Aunt Linda made a sound like a tea kettle, and Ryan began his speech. It was sweet, awkward, but sweet. He talked about meeting Lauren at a friend's backyard barbecue in Dayton, how she beat him at cornhole and then apologized for being too competitive. He talked about how she made his life feel calmer and bigger at the same time. How he had spent years thinking love made people weak, but Lauren had taught him it could make a person brave. I remember my eyes stinging, because for once, Ryan wasn't hiding behind jokes. He was honest. Then he reached into his pocket, lowered himself onto one knee, and opened the box, and the world went silent. Not quiet, silent, like somebody had dropped a glass wall between me and everyone else in the room. Inside that black velvet box was Emily's ring. My ring. The thin silver band. The little pale blue stone. The one I had kept for 7 years in my wooden box. The one I had held when I couldn't remember my sister's voice. The one I had gone looking for 2 weeks earlier and couldn't find. Lauren burst into tears. Everyone clapped. Ryan's voice shook as he asked her to marry him. She said yes. People stood up. Chairs scraped. Mom cried into a dish towel. Dad hugged Ryan with both arms, which he almost never did. Aunt Linda started taking pictures. Somebody shouted, "Let me see the ring!" I sat there frozen. My hands were in my lap. Fingers curled so tightly my nails dug into my skin. I looked at my mother. She looked back at me, and she smiled. Not a guilty smile, not an apologetic one. A soft, pleased smile. Like I should be happy too. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just watched my brother slide my grief onto another woman's finger. I made it maybe 10 more minutes. Then I went upstairs to the bathroom and locked the door. I didn't even cry at first. I just stood there staring at myself in the mirror, trying to make sense of what I had seen. Had I misunderstood? Was there another ring? Had Mom gone into my room? Had Ryan? I splashed water on my face, but my hands were shaking so badly I got it all over my shirt. When I finally came downstairs, everyone was outside on the patio, drinking coffee and congratulating the happy couple. Mom was alone in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher. I said, "Was that Emily's ring?" She didn't look at me right away. Then she said, "Yes, just like that. Yes." I waited for more. An explanation. An apology. Any sign she understood the floor had dropped out from under me. Instead, she kept rinsing plates. "Ryan asked your father and me," she said. "We thought it was a beautiful idea?" I stared at her. "You thought it was a beautiful idea?" "Yes," she said, sharper now. A way to include Emily in the day. My throat tightened. "Mom, I had that ring," she sighed. Not sadly, irritated. "Claire, honey, it was in a box. It was my box. It belonged to Emily." "I know that," I said. "That's the whole point." She finally turned around, dish towel in hand. "Your brother wanted to propose with something meaningful, and it wasn't meaningful to me?" Her face changed. Not softened, closed. "Oh, come on," she said. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a ring." For a second, I couldn't speak, because there it was, the thing that broke me. Just a ring. When Mom cried over Emily's prom dress, it wasn't just a dress. When Dad kept Emily's old softball glove in the garage for 15 years, it wasn't just a glove. When Ryan refused to let anyone sit in Emily's chair at Christmas the first year after she died, it wasn't just a chair. But my ring? The one thing I had? "That was just a ring," I said, very quietly. "How did he get it?" Mom looked away. And that told me everything. "You went into my room?" she said. "We knew you wouldn't mind once you understood." I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the sentence was so awful my body didn't know what else to do with it. "You stole it from my room, Claire. You took it. It was Emily's. It was mine to keep. It was never yours to begin with." Those words landed harder than I expected. Maybe because deep down, they weren't only about the ring. They were about my place in the family. I was the child who came after the tragedy. The one who was supposed to be grateful she was still here. The one who learned early not to ask too much of grief that started before she could understand it. Emily belonged to everyone, except me. I walked past my mother and out to the patio. Ryan was standing near the grill with Lauren tucked under his arm, showing the ring to our cousin Melissa. I waited until Lauren stepped inside to take a phone call from her mother. Then I said, "I want the ring back." Ryan blinked at me. Then he laughed. "What? I want it back." His smile disappeared. "Are you serious?" "Yes, Claire, don't do this." "Don't do what?" "Ask for the thing you took from my room?" His face flushed. "Mom said it was fine. Mom didn't own it. Neither did you." "I kept it for 7 years." He glanced toward the sliding glass door, like he was afraid Lauren might hear. "Can you not make a scene right now? Then give it back quietly." He stared at me like I was a stranger. "I just proposed to my girlfriend with my dead sister's ring that you knew I had." "Our dead sister," he snapped. The words hit something raw. "Exactly," I said. "Our sister. So why didn't anyone ask me?" "Because you get weird about Emily." I actually stepped back. "Weird? You act like you're the only one who misses her." "I barely got to know her. Ryan. That ring was all I had," he scoffed. "You were 6. That hurt more than I wanted it to, because people had said versions of that to me my whole life. You were so little. You probably don't remember. It must not be as hard for you. As if grief has an age requirement. As if missing someone only counts if you collected enough memories first. I said, if you don't tell Lauren where that ring came from, I will. Ryan's jaw tightened. Don't you dare. She deserves to know. She knows it was Emily's. But does she know it was taken from my room? His eyes went cold. You're unbelievable, he said. You're really going to ruin my engagement because you need attention? By then, people had noticed. Mom came outside fast, wiping her hands on her apron. What is going on? I couldn't answer, because if I opened my mouth, I knew I'd start sobbing. Ryan did answer. Claire's demanding the ring back. Mom's face went pale, then red. Inside, now. I followed her into the kitchen, not because I wanted to, but because some old child part of me still obeyed my mother's voice. She turned on me the second the door closed. What is wrong with you? That was when I started crying. Not pretty crying. Not one dignified tear. The kind where your face crumples and you hate yourself for being seen. You took it from my room, I said. Mom lowered her voice. This is your brother's day. It was my ring. It was Emily's ring. And I'm Emily's sister. The kitchen went still. Dad had come in behind us. He stood near the doorway, looking tired and lost. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then I said, why does Ryan get to use Emily to make his proposal meaningful, but I don't get to keep one thing that made me feel close to her? Mom's eyes filled with tears, but not the kind that made me feel safe. The kind that made me feel guilty. I lost a daughter, she whispered. I know, I said. But I lost a sister. She looked at me like that had never occurred to her. Dad rubbed his forehead. Maybe we all need to calm down. Ryan came in then, angry and embarrassed. No, Dad, she needs to stop. She's been like this for years, acting like Emily belongs to her. I laughed through tears. I'm asking for one ring. You're asking me to take back a proposal. I'm asking why no one cared enough to ask me first. And there it was, the real wound, not the ring, never just the ring. The room got quiet. For 1 second, I thought maybe somebody would hear me, really hear me. But Mom wiped her face and said, Claire, you owe your brother an apology. Something inside me folded. Not broke, folded, like a letter being put away. I grabbed my purse from the chair and left. No dramatic goodbye, no slammed door. Just me walking out of my parents' house while my family stood in the kitchen behind me, too proud or too guilty to stop me. I drove home with blurry eyes and sat in my apartment parking lot for nearly an hour, watching the sun go down behind the grocery store across the street. My phone buzzed 6 times. None of the messages were from Ryan. That night, before I went to bed, I made the mistake of opening Facebook. The first thing I saw was my mother's post. It was a picture from the proposal. Ryan on one knee, Lauren crying, my mother's kitchen bright and golden behind them. Then another photo. Lauren's hand stretched out, the pale blue stone catching the light. A close-up of Emily's ring. The caption said, Today our sweet Emily blessed Ryan and Lauren's future in the most beautiful way. Even though she couldn't be here in person, a piece of her will walk with them into marriage. God is good. I stared at it until the words blurred. People had already started commenting. What a beautiful tribute. Emily is smiling down. I have chills. What a meaningful family blessing. Women from church posted heart emojis and Bible verses. My Aunt Linda wrote, There wasn't a dry eye in the house. Then my phone started buzzing. A second cousin I barely knew wrote, Honey, your mom told us you're upset. Please don't let bitterness steal your brother's joy. One of Mom's church friends messaged, I know grief is hard, but this was such a beautiful way to honor your sister. Try to be happy for Ryan. Another relative wrote, You're young. Someday you'll understand family sacrifice. Family sacrifice. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I placed it face down on my nightstand and sat in the dark. The next morning, Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but I did because I was still the kind of daughter who hoped. She didn't say hello. She said, "Have you calmed down?" I closed my eyes. "Mom, are you ready to apologize?" I looked at the empty spot on my dresser where my wooden music box sat. I had opened it every day since the ring disappeared, like maybe it would magically come back. "No," I said. "Not really." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I don't know when you became so selfish." And she hung up. That was when I finally broke. I sat on the floor of my bedroom and cried like I was 6 years old again, like I was standing in a house full of adults who were grieving too loudly to hear me. Later that night, my cousin Melissa texted me. "For what it's worth," she wrote, "I think what they did was really messed up. I didn't know the ring was taken from you. I'm sorry." I stared at that message for a long time. Sometimes one person saying, "You're not crazy," can keep you from falling apart. I didn't reply right away. I didn't know what to say. For 3 days, I didn't speak to my family. I went to work. I answered emails. I bought groceries. I smiled at my neighbor in the hallway. I lived my life with a hole in my chest no one could see. Then, on Thursday evening, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Lauren was standing there, alone. She looked exhausted, no makeup, hair pulled back, engagement ring on her finger, Emily's ring. My stomach twisted. "Hi," she said softly. "Can I come in?" I almost said no, not because I disliked her, because I was afraid of what I'd feel seeing that ring up close. But I stepped aside. She came in and sat on the edge of my couch like she didn't want to take up too much space. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she looked down at her hand. "Ryan told me some of it," she said. I swallowed. "Some of it?" She gave a sad little smile. "Enough to know he left out the worst part." I sat across from her. Lauren twisted the ring gently around her finger. "When he proposed, he told me the ring belonged to Emily. He said your parents wanted him to have it. He said it was a family blessing." My throat tightened. "I didn't know it had been yours," she said. "It wasn't legally mine," I said, because I'd been arguing with myself all week. "I didn't buy it." "Claire." Her voice was gentle but firm. I looked at her. She said, "It was yours." And just like that, I started crying again. I hated that I did. Hated that this woman, who should have been celebrating the happiest week of her life, was seeing me fall apart. But Lauren didn't look uncomfortable. She moved closer and put a hand on my arm. "I'm sorry," she said. "I am so sorry. You didn't do anything." I said yes, wearing it. "You didn't know." Her eyes filled with tears. "No, but I know now." Then she reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "There's something else." My chest tightened. She tapped the screen a few times, then handed it to me. "I found these last night," she said. Ryan had deleted them, but they were still on his iPad. I wasn't snooping at first. His messages kept popping up because his account was synced, and I saw your name. I looked down. It was a thread between Ryan and Mom from 2 weeks before the proposal. Ryan, "Are you sure Claire still has it?" Mom, "Yes. It's in that wooden ballerina box on her dresser. She never wears it." Ryan, "If we ask her, she'll say no." Mom, "She'll get over it once she sees how meaningful it is." Ryan, "I just don't want drama." Mom, "Then don't give her time to make any." My hands went cold. I read the messages twice. Then a third time, Lauren's voice broke. "He knew." I handed the phone back slowly. She looked down at the ring like it had burned her. At first, I was confused. I thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe your mom found it in storage and Ryan didn't know. But this, she shook her head. "This is different." I didn't know what to say. Lauren wiped under her eyes. "I love him, Claire. I do. But I keep thinking, if he can steal from his own sister and stand in front of me talking about love and bravery, what else can he justify if he thinks the reason is good enough?" The room got very quiet. I had been so focused on my own hurt that I hadn't thought about what this would do to her. Not really. For Lauren, the ring wasn't only stolen property. It was a question. Could she marry a man who could turn someone else's pain into a romantic gesture? Could she trust a family that called theft a blessing? Lauren slid the ring off her finger and held it out to me. For a second, I just stared. That tiny blue stone caught the lamplight, and suddenly I was 12 again in the attic, holding a piece of my sister in my palm. I shook my head. "Lauren, I don't want to ruin your engagement." "You're not," she said. "Ryan did that when he decided a meaningful gesture mattered more than the person it hurt. The words were so clear, so simple. I didn't know what to do with them. I took the ring. The moment it touched my hand, something in me unclenched. Lauren leaned back and let out a shaky breath. I told him if he wants to marry me, he can propose again, with a ring he chose for me, not one he took from his sister. I gave a wet laugh. How did he take that? Badly. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," she said. "I love him. But love doesn't mean pretending not to see someone's flaws." That sentence stayed with me. Love doesn't mean pretending not to see someone's flaws. Before she left, Lauren hugged me. Not a polite hug. A real one. And for the first time all week, I felt like maybe the story didn't have to end with everybody choosing sides. But healing in families is rarely simple. Ryan called me that night. I let it go to voicemail. Then he texted, "Can we talk?" I stared at the message for 10 minutes before typing back. "Only if you're calling to be honest." The phone rang 30 seconds later. When I answered, Ryan didn't speak right away. I could hear him breathing. Then he said, "I screwed up." 3 words. Not enough, but a start. I sat on my bed, Emily's ring resting in my palm. "Yeah," I said. "You did," he exhaled. "Mom told me you wouldn't care." "That's not an excuse." "I know." I waited. He said, "I knew you had it. There are texts. Ryan." He went silent. Lauren showed me. His breathing changed. Then he whispered, "Yeah." My eyes burned. "Why?" His voice cracked slightly. "Because I wanted Emily there." "And I didn't? I didn't think about it like that." "That's the problem, Ryan." "I know." For the first time, he sounded small. Not like my older brother who always had a comeback. Not like the man who accused me of making things about myself. He sounded like the 11-year-old boy who lost his sister and never figured out where to put the pain. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not because Lauren made me give it back. Not because I got caught. I'm sorry because I knew it mattered to you, and I told myself it mattered more to me." I pressed the ring against my palm. "Why didn't you ask me?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Because I was afraid you'd say no." That answer hurt, but at least it was honest. "And because," he continued, voice lower now, "I think I've been mad at you for a long time." "At me?" "Not really at you, just..." He stopped. "You got to miss Emily without remembering the worst parts. The hospital. Mom screaming, Dad punching the garage wall, Emily in that bed. I couldn't breathe for a second. Ryan never talked about that time, ever. You had these soft little memories," he said. "Her nails, her music, her laughing, and I had all the ugly ones. I hated that. I know it's not fair, but I did." Tears slipped down my face. "I would have taken the ugly memories too," I whispered, "if it meant I got more of her." Ryan made a sound like he was trying not to cry. "I know," he said. "I know that now." We stayed on the phone for almost an hour. Not everything was fixed. That's not how life works. One apology doesn't undo years of silence. One honest conversation doesn't magically make a family healthy. But something shifted. A door opened. 2 days later, Ryan came over with a small white box. Inside was a new engagement ring, simple and beautiful, with an oval diamond on a gold band. "I picked it myself," he said. Lauren said yes again. I smiled. "Good!" He looked at the floor. "Mom's still upset." I'm sure she is. She thinks you turned Lauren against us. I laughed softly. Of course she does. Ryan looked ashamed. Dad's trying to talk to her. That surprised me. A week later, Dad came to see me. He brought coffee and a brown paper bag with 2 blueberry muffins because that was his way of saying things he didn't know how to say. We sat at my little kitchen table. For a while, he talked about work, the weather, and the Bengals' chances that season. Then he stared down into his coffee and said, "Your mom was wrong. I didn't say anything." He cleared his throat. "I was wrong too." That one landed deep. Dad rubbed his thumb along the coffee cup lid. "When Emily died, your mother's grief took up the whole house. I let it. I thought giving her whatever she needed was how I kept the family together." He looked at me then, eyes tired and wet. "But I didn't notice what it cost you." I blinked hard. "You mattered too, Claire. You always did. I'm sorry we made you feel like you didn't." I started crying before I could stop myself. Dad reached across the table and took my hand. He wasn't a man who apologized easily. He was a man who fixed leaky faucets and changed oil and showed love by filling your gas tank when you came home for the weekend. But that day, he sat with me in the mess, and it meant more than I can explain. Mom took longer. At first, she sent clipped little texts about practical things. "Your cousin's shower is Saturday? Do you want your Christmas ornaments from the basement?" "Call your grandmother," I answered politely. But I didn't chase her. For the first time in my life, I stopped begging my mother to understand me. Then, almost a month after the proposal, she showed up at my apartment. Dad was with her, standing a few steps behind, carrying a plastic storage bin in both hands. Mom looked older than I remembered. Not physically, exactly. Just tired in a way makeup couldn't hide. "Can we come in?" she asked. I let them. Dad set the bin on my coffee table. Mom sat down slowly beside it. For a while, she didn't open it. Then she said, "I found some things of Emily's." My body tensed. Mom noticed. "I'm not taking anything," she said softly. "I'm giving." She opened the bin. Inside were pieces of my sister's life I had never seen. A stack of photographs. A spiral notebook with doodles on the cover. A half-used bottle of blue nail polish, dried solid. A postcard from a school trip to Washington, D.C. A sweatshirt from her high school. And an old wooden jewelry box I recognized from the attic. Mom picked up a photo and handed it to me. Emily was maybe 16, sitting on the hood of Dad's old truck, grinning at the camera with chipped blue nail polish and wind-blown hair. "She wasn't perfect," Mom said. I looked up. Tears filled her eyes. "I made her perfect because I couldn't survive remembering all of her," she said. "The good and the hard, the sweet and the stubborn, the way we fought the morning before the accident." Her voice broke. "I froze her in my mind as this angel because the truth was too painful. And then I expected all of you to worship at the same altar." I held the photo carefully. Mom wiped her cheek. "When you said you lost a sister, I realized I had never let you have one. Not really. I kept Emily for myself." Dad had been quiet, standing near the coffee table. He picked up Emily's old jewelry box and opened it carefully. The hinges gave a soft little squeak. He smiled sadly. "I remember this thing. She begged us for it at the mall." Mom let out a small laugh through her tears. "She said it looked sophisticated." Dad lifted the tray inside, maybe looking for earrings or old notes, and then he froze. "What is it?" Mom asked. He reached into the box and pulled out a folded piece of notebook paper, yellowed at the edges. My name was written on the outside in purple ink, Claire. My heart began to pound. Dad looked at Mom. She looked just as confused as I felt. "Read it," I whispered. Dad unfolded the paper with careful hands. It wasn't a letter, just a note, written in teenage handwriting with hearts over the eyes. "Save the blue ring for Claire when she's big enough. She likes it. Don't let Ryan trade it for baseball cards." For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The room seemed to tilt. My hand went to my mouth. Mom made a sound like something inside her had cracked open. Dad read it again, this time barely above a whisper. Save the blue ring for Claire when she's big enough. I started crying so hard I couldn't see. Because all those voices that had been circling in my head for weeks, all those accusations, all those doubts, all that shame about whether I had taken something that wasn't mine, suddenly went quiet. I hadn't imagined the connection. I hadn't stolen a place in Emily's life. Emily had saved me one. Maybe she wrote that note as a joke. Maybe she was cleaning out her jewelry box one afternoon and saw me staring at the ring. Maybe she forgot all about it 5 minutes later. But it didn't matter. For the first time, I had proof of something I had needed my whole life. Emily had seen me, not as the baby, not as the kid underfoot, as her little sister. Mom covered her face with both hands. "Oh, Claire," she sobbed. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry. For years, I had imagined my mother apologizing. In those imaginary scenes, I was powerful and eloquent. I said all the right things. She understood instantly. We hugged. Music swelled. Real life was quieter, messier. I just sat there crying over a scrap of notebook paper from a teenage girl with purple ink and chipped nail polish. Mom moved beside me, slow and careful, like she was afraid I'd pull away. "I should have asked you," she whispered. "I should have known it mattered before a note had to prove it." "I'm sorry, Claire. I'm so sorry." Dad sat on my other side and put his arm around my shoulders. For a long time, the three of us stayed like that. No speeches, no perfect healing, just the truth, finally sitting in the room with us. Then Mom reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet pouch. My heart stuttered. "I know Lauren gave it back," she said quickly. "I'm not asking for it." She opened the pouch and took out a thin silver chain. "I thought maybe," she said, "if you wanted, you could wear the ring this way, close to your heart." I looked at the chain, then at my mother, then at the old note still trembling in Dad's hand. I went to my bedroom and brought back the ring. For a moment, Mom and I sat side by side, threading that little silver band onto the chain together. Her hands shook. So did mine. When she clasped it around my neck, her fingers lingered at the back of my collar. "I miss her," Mom whispered. "Me too," I said. And for the first time, it didn't feel like we were competing over grief. It felt like we were sharing it. Ryan and Lauren got married the following spring in a small ceremony at a vineyard outside Columbus. Lauren wore her new ring, the one Ryan chose for her. I wore Emily's ring on the silver chain beneath my dress. Before the ceremony, Ryan found me standing near the edge of the property, watching the wind move through the vines. He looked nervous again, but happier this time. "You okay?" he asked. I smiled. "Yeah," he nodded toward my necklace. "Can I see?" I hesitated, then pulled the chain from under my dress. He touched the ring gently, just once. "I forgot she had that," he said. "You did?" "Yeah." He smiled sadly. "She bought it at the mall with babysitting money. Mom told her it would turn her finger green." I laughed. That was new. A real detail. Not Angel Emily. Not tragic Emily. Just a teenage girl at the mall, buying a cheap ring because she liked the blue stone. Ryan's eyes lowered to the ring again. "I'm glad you have it," he said. "And I'm glad she wanted you to." And I believed him. During the reception, Mom gave a toast. She talked about Ryan and Lauren, about marriage, about patience and grace, and choosing each other on ordinary days. Then her voice softened. "Our family learned," she said, looking briefly at me, then at Ryan, then at Dad, "that love is not proven by holding tightly to the past. Sometimes love means making room for everyone's grief, everyone's memories, everyone's place at the table." No one mentioned the ring. They didn't have to. Later that night, after the music started and the older relatives complained it was too loud, Lauren pulled me onto the dance floor. Ryan joined us. Then Dad. Then, finally, Mom. And for one strange, beautiful moment, we were all there. the living. And somehow, Emily too. Not as a ghost, not as a saint, just as part of us. The sister with the strawberry shampoo, the girl with chipped nail polish, the 17-year-old who never got to grow up, but still left behind enough love to bring us back to one another. I still keep the ring on its chain. Some days I wear it. Some days it stays in the wooden music box on my dresser, right beside Emily's note. But now, when I hold it, it doesn't feel like proof that I mattered. I don't need it for that anymore. It feels like what it always should have been. A small silver circle. A piece of my sister. A promise she made without knowing how badly I would need it. And a reminder that in a family, love should never have to be stolen, earned, or fought for. It should be given, freely, before anyone has to ask.